Welcome to CSGuitars, the science of loud. If you cast your minds back about a year ago, you'll remember that I purchased this Gibson Gothic Flying V, and what followed was a journey of upgrades and modifications which turned this Prince of Darkness into a Golden King, complete with Pictish iconography and paleontological imagery. You can refresh your memory by viewing all of the previous videos in this playlist here. However, today I want to give you an update on all the most recent changes to this guitar. Indra Guitars, who provided all the etched brass parts installed in the previous video, got back in touch offering new control knobs to match. These are wooden knobs, stained black and set with aged brass tops, each engraved with a different dinosaur skull: Ceratosaurus, Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops. At the same time, Indra provided a brass jack plate with Pictish markings, one piece I'd forgotten to ask for before, which finally brings all of the elements of this guitar into agreement with each other. With the new knobs having holes just slightly too wide for the existing pot shaft to gain solid purchase, I made the very risky decision of trying to gently widen the split post to give the knurlings more grip. While this worked for the two volume controls, the inevitable happened on the tone control, snapping the post. I want to strip this down anyway, so what better time to install 3 new potentiometers. These are CTS brand, 2 log tapers for the volume controls, and a linear taper for the tone. These are type A and B respectively, both 500k. If you want to learn more about what this means, sign up for Patreon. I have a video there exclusively for members which talks all about it. After a very quick strip down and deep clean of the board and body, I unscrewed the scratch plate to access the electronics. Desoldering the pickups, jack socket and bridge ground wire allow me to remove the scratch plate entirely, where I can continue to strip away the parts. If you're not entirely familiar with the wiring of your guitar, that you can't recreate it again from scratch, it would be a very good idea for you to draw yourself a diagram of the existing wiring before you take it all apart. The only items I'll salvage from the original wiring are the toggle switch and the orange drop tone capacitor, which I added in the last video. The new CTS pots can be mounted to the plate. These are medium length shafts, so I'm using one of the nuts from the old posts on the inside to ensure these set at the correct height. Once tightened down, I can prep for soldering. The third lug on each of the volume pots will connect to ground. The easiest way to do this is to solder the lug directly to the pot casing. At any point where you'll be soldering to the case of the pot, it's highly advisable to use a small file to abrade the surface. This removes any protective coating and allows the solder to adhere to fresh metal. Lug 1 of the tone pot is unused and I've cut it off. We simply don't need it. The tone capacitor is reintroduced at this point, making a connection between the pot wiper and ground. The signal and ground wires are connected up using fresh, pushback cloth covered wire. We're now at the point where this needs reconnected to the pickups and jack socket within the guitar, but let's put the wiring aside for now. We need to address those Indra knobs. Even with the new pots, the teeth on the post knurlings aren't quite getting enough wood to bite into, meaning the holes drilled in the wood are just slightly too large, and I don't want to risk widening the split posts again. Fortunately, there is an easy solution to this: super glue. No, before you start, I'm not gluing the knobs to the pots. That's a super dumb idea. Don't glue removable parts to your guitar. Super glue hardens into a tough, thin layer. So using a matchstick, I can run a bead of liquid super glue around the interior, allow that thin layer to dry, and then apply another. These thin layers build up, reducing the diameter of the hole and giving a strong, tough material for the teeth to bite into. This also protects the soft wood of the knobs from being damaged and ripped out by the posts. While these are drying, let's take a look at what other changes have been made to this instrument. I chiselled this recess by hand some time ago to fit the knee rubber strip, which I feel is one of the greatest features of older Flying Vs. As this was hand chiselled, it's by no means a perfect route, but it's pretty damn close. It's very slightly askew and there are some paint chips that could use touching up, but for now, this is on the underside of the instrument, rarely seen, and the practical advantage is what it's there for anyway. I'll wait until I've repaired the paintwork before epoxying this strip into place. Now this is one that you've all been complaining about. the old stop bar post hole. That gaping hole in the guitar has been triggering a lot of you, which is exactly why I've been leaving it as long as this to do anything about it. Quite frankly, I like how upset some people get over literally nothing. Anyway, I've got a block of mahogany and this 1/2" dowel cutting bit. So let's make a plug. This is actually the first one that I cut, and it was too short. I cut several more until I got one both the right length and the best fit. Using a liberal amount of tight bond wood glue, the plug was tapped home. It's a decent fit, but not as tight as I'd like it to be, which is a common complaint of mine. While that glue is setting up, let's turn our attention to the control cavity. I have no idea why I let this slide at the time, but the shielding in this cavity is a disgrace. There's a single stroke of conductive paint at the bottom of this cavity from factory, which is providing protection against outside electromagnetic fields somewhere between bugger and all. I'm going to do this properly by using adhesive copper foil and create an enclosed area to act as a Faraday cage. The wonderful thing about this copper foil is that it doesn't have to be applied in one complex net. Instead, it can be applied in strips, so long as it all overlaps itself. The adhesive used is electrically conductive, so sticking foil to foil still maintains an electrical connection with no requirements to solder each new layer to the last. Once built up, and a tab left to connect the cavity foil to the foil on the underside of the scratch plate, a continuity test confirms that all the copper is electrically connected. Right, that should be the glue set up by now. Let's move the pickup out of the way so I can get my Japanese razor saw into this. I'm cutting from different angles, using many points of contact to control the blade, as I do not want a repeat of last time where I sliced my hand open when the fine-toothed, razor-sharp blade slipped. I have a strip of masking tape on the underside of the blade to protect the finish from scratches. With the excess plug removed, I can work with a sharp chisel to bring the plug level with the body. Again, many fingers help control the tool. I'm not applying pressure. This should glide, removing material higher than where the chisel started its movement. I'm trying to work with the wood grain as much as possible. Sanding out to the surrounding area is vital to get the plug level. These sanding marks are easily removed by rising through the grits and into polishing compound, which we'll tackle later. Ideally, to disguise this plug, I'd use a spray gun to apply black nitrocellulose, but there are several issues with that. 1, I don't have a spray gun or spray booth, and 2, I don't want to be breathing airborne nitro anyway. For a small area like this, I think I can get a decent enough paint repair simply by applying the nitro with a brush. This obviously isn't ideal, and you couldn't do any large areas this way, but for a 1/2" plug, I think it will be plenty fine. I'm using a repair technique where a flash coat of nitro mixed with thinners is applied first. This will soften the surrounding nitro slightly and allow the repair to blend in better. Then I'll cover the area with unthinned black nitro, then blend that in a little with another flash coat. This is really a test to see if this will work. I'm not expecting a perfect result. I'm also pretty certain I'll need to do more than one coat to get a flawless finish, but let's see what happens. I left this setting up overnight. It's dry to the touch, although I'm not sure enough time has passed for it to have completely cured. I gave a shot at sanding it smooth anyway, because I'm incredibly impatient. As you can see, to get the paint repair flush, I've sanded through a small section at the bottom of the plug. This indicates that this was probably still a little high and will need an extra coat of nitro to repair this and fill the low spots for complete invisibility. But do you know what? I kinda like this vibe. The rest of the instrument is well beaten with dents, scratches and paint wearing out in various places. Indeed, I've said before that I want this guitar to age and for the paint to wear, so this only adds to the desired aesthetic. I'll do further paint repair at a later date. I want to see how this cures over the coming week before messing with it again, but I imagine a second or third coat is all that will need to build up the required finish. Plus, I have the feeling that this will continue to trigger all the people who are so annoyed about the hole in the first place. I'll look forward to your complaints. In any case, the sanded area polished up using polishing compound and blends in pretty nicely. It's finally time to reconnect the pickups to the new pots. Signal wires to the first pot lugs and the shielding to the pot casings. The output jack can be connected to the signal wire leaving the switch where it meets the master tone control. A quick test with the multimeter to check everything is wired to the correct place and the signal will travel to where it's supposed to with no short circuits is highly advisable before screwing the guard back down again. There's nothing worse than setting the guitar up only to find the wiring isn't working and you've got to take it all apart again. Now I can finally fit the new Indra knobs, which was the whole point of this in the first place. If anything, I've probably reduced the hole diameter a little too much. These are now a very tight fit, but at least they won't be coming off by accident. All that's left now is to throw in a set of brand appropriate strings and play the damn thing. It's been about a week or so since I did all those modifications that you've seen in this video, particularly patching that nitro. As I suspected, this has changed over time as the nitro has cured, shrinking into the low spots. So even if I'd got it right on that first coat, by now it would have shrunk and cured and would be needing to go over it again anyway. Now that I have the knowledge of the cure time and the shrinkage that I can expect, I can go back any time now and get that perfect. You might have noticed that the guitar is sounding brighter with a tad more high-end detail than it was before. A fresh set of strings will certainly do that, but I suspect there's something else going on. You can hear me speculate about what that is in the Patreon exclusive video. Remember, if you like the look of any of the parts you've seen here, then you should check out Indra Guitars. They do custom knobs, neck plates, pick guards, and more, so follow the link in the description if you fancy kitting out one of your guitars in a similar fashion. With this video, I think we'll call the Golden Gothic V complete. Sure, there are a few little things I'll probably do here and there, including touching up that nitro again, but I don't think any of that merits another video in the future. I hope you've enjoyed this ride, getting the V to where it is today. This has certainly become my favourite guitar, and you'll be seeing a lot more of it in videos in the future. But that's all for now, guys. Keep it loud, and I'll see you later.